Hello peeps, third in the trilogy on the Westall UFO. So this is a book I'm selling on eBay in a bundle, Paranormal File, but by John Pinkney. According to Goodreads, he's written over 30 books, and there is some information that he's found. I'll just read out a little bit of it, not too much, because his book, not my book, but just to give you an idea of some of the things that occurred in the aftermath of this Westall UFO. So it's on page 77, the saucer that shocked a school. I'll read 2 paragraphs or 3, and then I'll read a bit from the next page, and I think that'll be okay. So, and this is very interesting. This is the park I've been walking through in the previous video. It's to the south of me. Something weird happened there. There is swamp gas. Alan Hynek in the 1966 Michigan, same year as Westall, said that swamp gas and UFO sightings go together, and certainly Clayton Swamps, where Squizzy Taylor buried the unfortunate victims, and other gangsters would operate in those areas, and they'd take them out to those swamps, and they'd never be seen again. Although now it's obviously a built-up area. In 1966, it was still fields. There were lots of fields there. It wasn't so built up. Now there's houses all around. Let's get started. So I'll just read a bit from this, so not too much. Witnesses say that in April 1966, the Australian Army set fire to a paddock adjoining Westall High School in the Melbourne suburb of Clayton. The alleged burn-off occurred hours after members of the school's staff and most of the student population stood watching a domed craft descend, apparently to land briefly in the grass. The case of the Westall High landing was headlined internationally. The UFO was first seen at morning recess by the school's science teacher, Andrew Greenwood. Round, grey, flat-based and domed, it rose up from behind pine trees. Mr. Greenwood would later describe the object as resembling a thin light beam that seemed to thicken occasionally like a disc tilting to show its underside. For 20 minutes, more than 200 students and staff watched thunderstruck as first one plane, then 5, most of them Cessnas, chased the darting object around the sky. Student Marilyn Eastwood described the UFO as being round with a hump on top and round things underneath. Another female student, aged 15, wrote, "I was in a class when the disturbance occurred outside. I didn't take any notice. And when the bell went for morning recess, my classmates and I went to our lockers and then walked out into the yard. We noticed that all the girls who were doing physical education were gathered down the end of our playing field. Suddenly the school came alive with excitement. Everybody began running down toward where the girls were. I was among the surging mob. I had seen something that looked very unusual in the sky. As I looked up, I saw a dazzling silvery object around some pine trees which grew on a ridge about a quarter mile directly behind the school. It flew across some open paddocks also behind the school and returned to the pines." So that's the park we've just been walking in. And it just goes on. It says there were private aircraft began flying towards the pines. So the aircraft may have been chasing it or something. They found themselves in an area, in a spot where the grass had been utterly crushed against the earth. They waded through the waist-high grass, making a gap in it. Cows could not have done it because the fence was barbed. And also, the area was 8 to 9 meters in diameter. It sounds like a crop circle. There was no track. The object had descended over the field. Could it have done this? So anyway, and it goes on and on and on. He says he discussed the case with a maths teacher, who said the army burned the paddock. Yeah, good investigative journalist, Pinkney. It's good. He says he received a letter saying that students received detention for talking to Channel 9. And then the next day, after talking to Channel 9, representatives of all 3 armed services called at their parents' house to ask if I could take them to the landing spot. Then they told us to stay in the truck. I heard one RAAF, Royal Australian Air Force man, say they told us to stay to stay in the truck. Said there must have been extreme heat because the earth was burned. A cow in the paddock was in such a distressed state it had to be destroyed. And then they warned them off, and they said nah. The teacher, their master at school said yeah, he don't believe in UFOs. But how could 5 pursuit planes all be wrong? I mean, and it's true. I mean, you look at any paranormal book. These happen all. This is not even paranormal. This is almost a regular occurrence. These things. It's just that there is something quantum mechanical going on that stops us. I believe that's stopping us from finding out more. And it's definitely related to all those quantum mechanical concepts we heard about in high school or university, such as if you think about it too much, you'll push it away. If you tell people all your plans, it won't come true. God laughs at your plans, things like this. In the same way, the paranormal stops us from finding out more about the paranormal. And that is something that is very, very clear about the paranormal. And it's been very clear to many investigators. One of the most famous Nessie investigators, a bloke called Holliday, he wrote 3 books about Nessie, increasingly weird. The first book says it's a gigantic version of an ancient Tully monster, something with basically arms sticking out and an eyeball on each end. Later on, and a face which is just a mouth. There is one sighting of Nessie where it was crossing the road in the 1920s, and 2 people in a car had to stop and wait for it to finish crossing the road in front of them, which took quite a long time because it was they didn't want to run it over, and it was pretty big as well. But he noticed, he was determined to photograph it, but he noticed something. He noticed something very weird. Nature itself was preventing him from finding out more information about Nessie, even though he saw it 3 times. Nature itself was preventing him from evidencing Nessie, even though he saw it. He said it would only be seen if he wasn't in a position to record evidence about it, which is really interesting. So there we go. And this is why people say, how come every photo of a UFO is some blurry rubbish? Well, maybe that's a law of nature. Maybe that too is part of the phenomenon. So guys, consider that as well. Hope you've enjoyed this little trilogy on what happened in Westall. I was there a few years ago. It was the 50th anniversary, and I explored it for the first time. And I thought, yeah, the area definitely it has many of the hallmarks of UFO, of plasma. It's got electricity pylons nearby running through the school. It's got all sorts of weird things going on. Anyway, guys, hope you've enjoyed. Cheerio.